Hello, welcome to another Ready and Roll video. Today we're going to be doing something that I probably should have done a while ago, and that's actually take a look at the Starfinder core rulebook. Because I was prepping for session 4, which is a week on Saturday, so a week from tomorrow. Won't be going out then. It, session 3 hasn't even been edited yet. That's my bad. But yeah, I thought I should probably actually review this and tell people if they should buy it. Which I think is a bit of a loaded question because, like I say, I'm on session 4 of this fucking thing now, and I'm having a blast. And I hope the people that I've mercilessly dragged in to play it for me / with me have been having a good time too. But yeah, before we get into this chunky book, it is a chunky book, I would like to make a couple announcements. First off, we hit 50 subscribers. We're now at 51, which is awesome. So, to every single person who has ever watched any of our videos, especially to those of you who have subscribed, thank you. Like 50 subscribers is about 48 subscribers more than we deserve. Because obviously this channel was started by Ron and I during the pandemic, and obviously we're going to subscribe to it, even though we probably shouldn't have, because yeah, those early videos, man, those first couple MTG videos are oof. But yeah, thank you so much. It just, like, 50 subs in the grand scheme of things, we are still not even little fish. We are just plankton in this weird sea of YouTube channels. But still being able to say 50 subscribers is awesome. So thank you. And like I say, we're actually on 51, which is mental. So thank you. But speaking of subscribers, if you do enjoy this video or any of the other videos that we've been putting out, especially as the last couple of weeks I've tried to put out more content. I hope people haven't got tired of Warhammer stuff, because there's more. I'm sorry. There's always going to be more. I do try on this channel to balance things out, especially as someone who, especially over the pandemic, got into a lot of more indie games. I do want to make this channel more about showing off the new stuff than going, hey, here's this thing you already know about, and there's hundreds of rotund white guys already talking about it. On the upside, unlike a lot, not all, I will say, unlike a lot of, tabletop games channel, I could at least tick the, not straight box, which is good. Which, makes things fun. And also, I'm visually impaired too, so, which sort of makes me feel better about doing something that isn't very niche at this point. But anyway, Starfinder, core rulebook. Is it a good book? Yes. Video over. No. First off, to get the important bits out of the way, this book is published by Paizo and can be bought. I don't know, I'm checking the price. It's only the US price on the back. US price, it retails for $60, $59.99. And in the UK, it retails for about £40, which is about average for a lot of these books. Which, that is a bit of an investment. So take that in mind if you're buying the hardback version. Paizo do a lot of, especially for their core product, they do pocket editions, which are about a third smaller, roughly the same size in terms of thickness. So, yeah, and those pocket editions are page for page, recreations of their core products, just with smaller text. Which, if that sort of thing is okay for you, then I would recommend that over this hardback version. But a lot of all the information that I'm about to discuss is applicable to the Pocket version anyway. And the Pocket version, I just checked on Amazon, it's £15. So I imagine if you go to your local friendly game store and they sell Starfinder products, you might even get it cheaper than that. You could, you know, I know places like Orcs Nest sell a lot of Starfinder stuff. They do sell it at retail, but given that it's a local-ish friendly game store, I don't mind because they're lovely people. It's the sort of shop that if they're not busy, you can just have a chat to the staff for a good while until they do get busy and they're like, okay, cool, which is nice. I love a shop where you're okay to just chat because especially you know in a shop that sells products related to a hobby, it's nice to be able to talk to the staff who might be able to give you the time of day to discuss, you know, your hobby and maybe give you some recommendations, and also be there as a hobbyist yourself to give them recommendations. Maybe I was there last time. I was there February-ish, I think. I was in there, and a German guy was in there talking about buying board games and things for a large party. And they were looking at things like Secret Hitler, and the staff were able to tell him, yeah, Secret Hitler isn't really something that's sold to retailers. It's more something that you buy directly from the publisher. They do a print and play version as well, and I think they also have just an online version that you can use. But I was also able to go, here's a dozen also, other similar games to Secret Hitler that you might enjoy. And they also picked up, I think they ended up spending like £100 at that shop in the end because they, the staff are so nice, and it was just nice going, hey, here's this game and here's this game, and their daughter spotted the My Little Pony RPG, and naturally they were badgered into that by their daughter, and hopefully that gets some love because that RPG, I haven't played it, but the Dicebreaker playthrough, that was a laugh to watch over last Christmas. But yeah, go to your LFGs, people. Don't buy on Amazon unless your LFG doesn't have it. Then maybe go to Amazon because sometimes it's just nice to have things. Anyway, this book is good. Published by Paizo, as I've already said. And if you're even really remotely familiar with the layout and style of games like this, so obviously Pathfinder, but also D&D, most recently 5e, but also because Pathfinder is based on 3.5, you should be quite familiar with this as well. There's going to be a lot of similarities, I think. I've never played 3.5. I played a bit of 4th, which is where I got into the game to begin with. And it was fine. I am not a fan, personally. But yeah, if you're familiar with D&D or any other game like it, that uses that sort of class system and D20s, you're going to be very familiar with it, even down to looking at the character sheet, because it's kind of similar to a lot of what you're going to be familiar with D&D. So it's got its classes and races. Your stat block is going to be very similar. Some of the a lot of the skills are different, and the names for the saves are different, but most of the stuff is fairly interchangeable. Like I will often when I'm running Starfinder, I'll basically just go, okay, it's basically like this thing from D&D. It's just been given a slightly different name, you know. So if that's something that you're thinking about, maybe you've got a D&D game that you're thinking, I want to play something more sci-fi, but I want something that I'm going to be able to more easily introduce my players to, rather than going, okay, let's switch gears completely and play something completely off the wall that has almost no similarities to D&D beyond you roll dice. Starfinder is good for that. And also, the book is quite nicely laid out on the margins of the right page. You will find the each of the sections is just written out on the margins of the rightmost page, as you're looking at it. So, as you notice there, we were on the page for classes. So if you're in sort of a hurry to search for something, obviously the book's got its own glossary in the back. But if you know roughly where the thing you're looking for is, say I wanted to look for the rules on starship combat, it makes sense that that is going to be in the starship section. So I would flip to the starship section, through a lot of equipment. Here we are, starships. In the next couple pages should be starship combat. Nope, that's more starships with really nice art. I do like it. And here we are, starship combat in the starship section of the book. Good. So yeah, it's really, really easy to navigate, which I think more books, especially books of this size, more books should do this. Just, especially with so many books having such massive margins, it's really easy to just have a small section of, even if it's every few pages, just going, hey, here's section you're on, and if you need a specific section, maybe you want to look at legacy characters, because the game does allow for legacy fantasy characters from the Pathfinder world into this game, because it's science fantasy as opposed to science fiction. So, say you had a player who wanted to be an elf, you could just go, okay, here's, it's in the back of the book instead of with all the other races. But it's not complicated to convert your Pathfinder / D&D stuff over and run those races, and a lot of the races that might be more fantasy based anyway, if they're not in the legacy rules section of this book, a couple of them are going to be in the Alien Archive books. So I know there's Drow in there. Azimar and Tieflings are also in the Alien Archive. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff, and even then, there's plenty of rules for making your own races elsewhere, like in the Interstellar Species book that I really want to get my hands on because it looks fun. But yeah, it's all quite easy to read. If it is kind of wordy, because I think all of these sort of chunky RPGs tend to be a little bit wordy for me. A lot of things, they are. I understand that they're worded to avoid confusion, but normally, if I'm creating a character, I will write it down. Write the name of the thing I'm referencing. Write down the page number if I have to reference it to my DM or to a player. But I will often just write it down in maybe a fraction of what it says in the book. So if, it'll just be a couple sentences of what does it do, what damage does it do, or what checks do I need to make? Because a good chunk of this naturally is, it's more, they do put a lot of fluff into these things. So that's, which I do appreciate. But yeah, good book, lots of tables, and lots and lots of equipment. So if you, unlike say D&D, that has a player's handbook and a what's it called, GM's handbook, this game, like most RPGs out there, does have just this one book. So whether you're a player or a GM, you do only need this one book, which is nice. I think it's kind of a pain in the ass when systems sort of need two books. I think systems that do have that are cool. I'm not saying that they're not, like Call of Cthulhu and the one by Arc Dream, Delta Green. They have their own uh, books for players and people that are running the game, which is fine. But I do also appreciate when books are just like, here's everything you need to both run and play the game. Which does mean I think sometimes books like this, as a player, you're probably only going to use this book really once or twice. Once, obviously, to create a character, and then as you're leveling up, you might also reference it. But even then, I will say a lot of this information is just freely available on websites like Archives of Nephis, which, oh my god, if you're playing Starfinder, add Archives of Nephis to your favorites because it's so useful. There's so much just information on there, and Paizo are aware of it, obviously, and they're happy for that thing to exist. They're just like, yeah, cool, that's a good resource for players because they're aware. They're aware that not everyone either wants or needs every single book that they put out, and sometimes you just want one very specific little thing, and it's like, here's the rule, here's the resource you need. And maybe that will encourage people. They're also aware that that might even encourage people to go out and buy the book that the rule references. Like if they, see the rules on some of the vampiric characters, they'll go, ooh, that looks interesting. Vampires in Starfinder, which yes is a thing. And I I went out and bought the adventure path physically just to have all those rules in one place, and maybe I'll run that adventure path myself one day. But yeah, it's Archives of Nephis is great if you maybe don't have the core rulebook to hand, and also if you're a player, I wouldn't suggest going out and buying this physically. At least not this big version. If you're a player and maybe you do want to have a book to hand, I would suggest, just for the cost effectiveness of it, either buying the PDF, which is $20, or buying the pocket edition, which I think is about the same in dollars and about the same in pounds as well. So it's just easier. It's just that I do not absorb information too well when I'm reading it off a screen. I like to have things in my hands to sit down, thumb through, and just get all that information in my brain. Also, because looking at screens hurts my brain a lot. Unless it's Morgborg, in which case looking at the screen hurts, looking at the book hurts just as much. Which is why I cannot wait for the plain text version of Cyborg to come out. But anyway, Starfinder is a good book. Well planned out, well ordered, with some really, really, really nice art that will give you, there you go, give you some really good inspiration for characters. So, yeah, really fun little, well, not little, it's almost 500 pages long, for God's sake. Lots of good stuff in this, especially because the game is just, it's 8 years, I think now it's been going. So even after the core rulebook, there's plenty to get your teeth into, which I love. I like to say I do like a good light role playing system, but I also like just as much a game that's just, you know, I love seeing games where you can literally go, all right, everyone, let's do something dumb. Let's play the same class and the same race, even though I kind of disagree with the term race in that context anyway. But with Pathfinder and at least Starfinder, in my experience, I genuinely think with how much choice there is in this game, you could have everyone be the same race and the same class, potentially even the same origin. I think it's called, or theme. Theme, that's the one. Because on top of your class and your race, you also have a theme for your character, which it gives you a couple little extra things on top that'll sort of flesh out your character and make people, you know, gives you an extra idea of what your character does. So I think even if you went all three of those, just based on the how many differences each class can have, you wind up with very vastly different classes. You'd have some quite a bit of crossover still, but I think people would still find people do tend to do that anyway with D&D classes, but D&D classes are a lot yeah, they're a lot more restrictive, and it's just, you know, how, you know, if you had even two bards in the party, they'd, especially early on, they'd be doing a lot of the same stuff, whereas between your class and your theme and your race in Starfinder, you'd still do a lot of the same stuff early on, but you'd probably be doing it in different ways and different styles and things like that. But anyway, yeah, Starfinder core rulebook. Should you buy it and should you play it? Should we buy it? Yes. Should you buy it in this hardback format? Not necessarily. I think if you've got good eyesight, anyway, the pocket edition is good. And if you prefer reading on a computer, the PDF version is just as good for less as well, anyway. So, as a player resource, maybe get the PDF or the Pocket Edition. If you're a GM and will have this sort of thing out a lot anyway, I think it is good. But yeah, it's good. Play Pathfinder. Fuck me. I've never played Pathfinder. Why do I keep saying that? Play Starfinder. It's good. It's in space, which is better than fantasy. I still like fantasy, but anyway, space is good. Yeah. I think that's about it for the video. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to be doing more stuff on Starfinder in terms of the books and the nuances outside of recording and playing the game, because, you know, I like showing things off. Especially when it doesn't involve setting up the tripod, which I have found a couple videos have had to be recorded on my computer because I couldn't find my tripod. I didn't leave it at home. It just fell in the back of the shelf that I keep a lot of stuff on, which is good. So the next few Stormbringer videos will be done through the tripod, so you won't have to look at all this, which is a plus, if you ask me. But anyway, thank you for watching. Be nice to each other. Enjoy your hobby. I need a glass of water, apparently, because I've done like 3 or 4 tries at this video and they've all been bad. See ya.